Okay, hi everyone. I'm always excited when I walk up the stage, so I think it will pass in a few minutes. So let me introduce myself. I'm Michal, I'm a doctor, I'm a pediatrician actually. I started my career journey as a software engineer. Actually, we just noticed that someone here in the audience I used to work with in a previous lifetime. And I completed my pediatric residency, and then I hooked up with my two co-founders today, who, again, from the previous from my previous cycle in high tech, and we started thinking about how we can bring our skills, the technology, into healthcare, and really make an impact on the clinical aspect. You will see that the emphasis of what we are doing is always on the clinical side. Okay. So just a little bit of context. I usually attend conferences in the healthcare market, healthcare spectrum, and which were, of course, are always very insightful. I think these type of conferences are much more inspiring because we are brought in from such different fields, and we're all very much excited and passionate about technology, and we can see how the technology aids in different other fields, and which brings more. So I'm hoping that this time that I have with you, which is not much, I will give you a scope of what we are doing as a company and what generative AI together can bring to the healthcare market. So healthcare market, it's not something new. For the past decade has been adopting technology. Different types of AI have been incorporated into healthcare, but it's only like the tip of the iceberg. Healthcare market is the market that is most in need of help. These pain points that you see of burnout and variability of care and shortage of staff and all these problems in healthcare, they're not just affecting physicians, they're affecting all of us when we are demanding medical services. So that's just the context. I spoke a little bit about the team. We are a company, we've been around for 5 years. We have 25 employees, all of us very much determined to bring impact into healthcare, working hard with our partners in different markets, mostly in the US market you will see, but okay, I'll go on. So a little bit about the foundation of Kahun's technology, and then we'll start talking about how this is working together with the generative AI models. We'll talk about how for the healthcare needs or adopting AI into healthcare tasks, it can't be just one model. Our model will solve a few problems. The language models will solve more problems. Together, a multimodal solution has to be produced into healthcare to really make an impact. So what we do at Kahun is we started off by transforming the language of medical science into a structured format. You know, what we are basing our knowledge, our clinical reasoning as physicians. We are using scientific knowledge. This is a scientific profession. We are updated from peer-reviewed articles, researches that are being published, that we research and publish. And this is how we know, this is how we learn, and this is how we practice medicine. So the core of the knowledge, the core of the decision-making is found in text. It's in articles, in medical textbooks. And what we started off in the company, when we decided that we are bringing tools for physicians, it was obvious for us that we have to be very strict to the knowledge. It can't be a magic trick. We can't use data and try to invent a new type of medicine. If we want physicians to trust the suggestions, the recommendations that our system will give them, we have to speak the same language. And we have to use the same sources, and we have to use them responsibly and accurately. So our proprietary core technology is that knowledge graph that we created. It's transforming the complex understanding of medicine into structural language. Now, I can't emphasize enough for those who don't know how beautiful medical knowledge is. The diseases, the complications, the presentations, the laboratory abnormalities, the imaging findings, and and the connections between them, they are always specific to a specific cohort of patients and so on, and statistical understanding of the connections, whether it's causality, whether it's association, the risk factors, sensitivity and specificity. Okay, it's really complex, and it's probably the what's fascinating so much about this profession. So that's the core knowledge graph, and we'll see it later. We can actually see a little snapshot from the knowledge graph in a specific case. On top of that knowledge graph, we created an AI engine which mimics the thought process of physicians or healthcare providers when they actually need to make a clinical decision. Now that happens multiple times, hopefully, during the day of a healthcare professional. I mean, you're laughing, but it's true. I mean, we spend almost 70% of our time just on bureaucracy and documentation. And so we'll talk about generative AI and how it helps us also there. But clinical decision-making is a tough task. To create a physician takes a long time. And we are mimicking with this engine the exact methodology of clinical reasoning. On top of that, we have our tools, our products, and the clinical settings that we are going after. And of course, reporting and analytics. I'm not going to go too much into it because there's so much to talk about today. Let's talk about generative AI, and it's relatively new. I mean, we've been playing with it for a long time. NLP has been around in healthcare for a long time. Because of that, basic, what I said before, I mean, medical knowledge is textual. It's articles, it's medical textbooks. I would like to say that it's not exactly natural language. I mean, if any of you would try to read, if you're not coming from healthcare, try to read a paper, a clinical paper, it will be hard to understand it. It's very, as just I described before, so it's not so much a surprise why the NLPs until now were not good enough to create that complexity, to understand that complexity of knowledge and use it in an accurate way. So what we are doing today is we are incorporating together the generative AI, and we'll talk about what's good for healthcare in generative AI, together with our knowledge graph and that engine that mimics the thought process of physicians. Now, I said before, the solutions that will be adopted into healthcare have to be multimodal because there are shortcomings and special characteristics of every model, and together, when you're combining these models, you're building a much stronger tool that is synergic, that is complementary to each other. I mean, we've talked about, and we've heard in previous presentations, just even here today, about the hallucinations, about the factuality, about the traceability shortcomings of the generative AI, and yet we are all in awe of how amazing, fluent, and generation of text to whichever persona needs that text, and that's very useful in healthcare. We'll talk about that. And again, the different model, our model, which brings that transparency, accuracy, very, very strict traceability to the sources. Again, going back to, if you're building tools for physicians, they have to trust it. Okay, now this is more an anecdote, but there's this very, very recent paper that was published in JAMA, but they actually took the very, very famous CPC cases of New England Journal of Medicine. So just a little bit of background, New England Journal of Medicine, most prestigious journal of scientific knowledge. Every month they publish a case. I mean, you've all seen Dr. House, right? Okay, so this is much more complex, but there are always very, very complex clinical patients with very rare diseases at the end. But the beauty of these cases is that it gets you to think, because the patients come in with some complaint. They could come in with a headache or an abdominal pain or a rash or something, and then the case will progress slowly, and more data will be known about that patient, and then there's a differential diagnosis, which means what kind of diseases providers need to think about in that specific patient. And from that list of diseases that they are thinking about, they're starting the workup process. So they need to know which lab test to order and so on. Now, these cases are very famous and very hard to solve. Okay, it takes specialists in very, very specific fields in medicine to solve these cases. And what they have shown in this study is they took the 70 cases, the last 70 cases of this bank, and using this prompt, they solve it. So I mean, is that everything? Is everything, all the knowledge and all the skills and training of healthcare providers, specialists, years of working to get to that specialty, is all down to a simple prompt? This works, by the way. For 70% of, I can't remember even, a very high percentage of the cases, they are solved by this prompt, just that prompt. This prompt asks the language model to think like a physician and draw from the knowledge whatever is the connections between the words in the case that should come out to a diagnosis. And this is very promising, but as I said before, it's not complete. So the complete, I think I said it, so I'm not going to repeat it. It's the different models that will be combined to give solutions that really do make an impact. Now let's touch a little bit about something that is relevant for all the different fields, but also very, very challenging in healthcare, is how do you validate? I mean, if you're starting to use a language model to give decisions, how can you validate such systems? In healthcare, the gold standard is a physician. It's a human physician. It's a very limiting factor. You can appreciate that, I think. And I'm sure, or maybe you've heard of the different LLMs that have come out for healthcare by Google, by OpenAI, and so on. And they are testing themselves, validating their technology, again, on using human physicians who are ranking cases, patient cases, and seeing how well the correlation between the LLM output and the physician. Now again, very, very limiting factor, but it's what we have. So we did that the same also using the same board exams of the US board exams for physician, and these different LLMs, also Kahun 2 years ago, published articles showing what's the correlation between these AI systems and what's expected from a healthcare provider, a trained, board-certified healthcare provider. But again, this is a very limiting factor for validation, and we'll talk about it again in a minute. Now, what's happening in the market, in the healthcare market, again, as I said before, it's not something new that healthcare is looking for technologies to improve decision-making and radiology and pathology. And again, hopefully you've heard of some of these tests, but I'm focusing on the adoption of generative AI, because what we are seeing now is a real hype. It's, again, across all fields, but very much in the healthcare market, which is not typical for healthcare market. Healthcare market systems, especially the big ones, they work in a different pace. It's a very traditional and with liability issues and risk issues. So this is really a hype, and it's really happening. These systems are building partnerships and trying to see how these technologies could go into the systems and help solve some of those pain points that I described at the beginning. Now, I mean, this little map of initial adoption, you can already see that it's mainly about productivity. We're mainly hearing the trends of how can these generative text models, generative AI, can help physicians or healthcare professionals be more productive, save less, spend less time on the computer, spend more time with the patients, and that's important, of course. But is that enough? This is a very important question, an open question. Is it enough of an impact? Does it really justify the hype that an AI will write for me a discharge letter for the patients, or help me write a claim for the insurance company so my patient will get, some procedure coverage, yes or no. Of course, it's not enough. I mean, it doesn't justify this hype. This hype is here because healthcare is in real trouble. There are shortage of staff everywhere. We've seen this. We're post-pandemic. Everybody's post-traumatic from that. The whole healthcare systems around the world. And we need to find how these technologies could really make an impact on the clinical side, okay? Now, just some more, apart from the clinical, apart from the productivity issues, there is also a lot of work in the healthcare system about researching, about being able to extract data in more productive, efficient way. And a little bit about the research that have been published. I'm sure some of you have seen this, but I will repeat because, again, you're not from healthcare, most of you. So there are studies showing, I think the favorite one is the empathy, showing that this is a very famous study showing testing from a bank of interactions, engagements between patients and physicians, showing that GPT was 3.6 more accurate, but 10 times more empathic. I mean, I would like to speak for my colleagues that it's not fair. The GPT doesn't have to see 30 patients a day and have 5 minutes or 10 minutes to see each one of them and have all this documentation overload and so on and so on. So. But that's what they've shown. The GPT passes the USMLE board exams. I spoke about it before. Hallucinations in healthcare. I can bring some samples. They're really funny, but maybe sad, okay? But there are these hallucinations when you're building something that you want your physicians to use. Just think about it. I mean, it's really chilling. Thinking that you will go to see your physician, then they will consult with technology that hallucinates, really hallucinates, like making stuff up completely, making articles up, making stuff about the patients that are extracted from the EHRs. But you've spoken about this before, and we will all speak about it more and more in the next few years, probably, how the versions will probably just continue to improve, and we will see less of these hallucinations. Okay, I'm running, because how much time do I have? We don't? That's it, questions? I told you I have too much stuff, okay. So I will end here. I mean, there is really so much more to tell, but about how we combine these technology-wise. If you're interested, I would love to share more. Let me know. And if you have questions, please. Anyone? Okay. So thank you very much.